And we're live. Hi, everyone. Sorry for the bad lighting here on my end. I am here with Russell Wright. Russell, you're going to TO a World Open War, which will be the first major tournament in version 3. So you've been reading version 3 for a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah. I got NDA'd on it a while back to help playtest it, and
Yeah.
it was helpful for me because given we decided we were going to run that tournament as V3, getting a chance to see the rules early and be
Yeah.
involved in design, it's given me a lot more time to prepare. Given lots of input to those guys. Hopefully, some of it was helpful, and we are now where we are with the books and all ready to
Yeah.
go.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to give it an initial reaction because this is the first time we're speaking publicly about V3.
Yeah.
So this is like a first read through. For me, I'm going to go and do lots of tutorials and lots of coverage as soon as we get the games in and all of that. But right now, I just wanted to sort of have a gut talk about what we think about the book. Now we actually have the book and can talk about it at this point because this video will be approved by Warlord, so we know that they're okay with us saying what we're saying. Because lots of other people have talked about all the things that they're leaking and both Warlord like official leaks and all the other stuff that's been leaked everywhere, and it looks like a lot
And
of people have.
a lot of it was wrong anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it was
It was
bullshit.
quite. You must have been like me, finding it quite amusing. People
Yeah,
making stuff up and chatting, and
yeah,
just thinking, no, not unless my copy's changed.
yeah, yeah. I think some of it was just because people had early copies, like playtest copies or whatever, and I think some of it was guesses, and some of it was accurate. But yeah, not going to go too much into leaks. I don't want to do that. Um,
No, no, I'm with you, man.
no. Um, so let's just talk about for starters, the difference between V2 and V3. What is most important for you when you first read it? What sprang out at you and said this is different?
It's the firing modifiers.
Yeah,
It feels to me now like it's a bit click and play. If you aim at something that's in the open, sorry, if you aim at something you can see, you
yeah,
will hit it.
yeah.
That feels to me like a given now. So it completely changes the way the game plays. So this is not version 2.1 or 2.5. It is a genuinely different version,
Which
and
of
it
course also
plays
means that
differently.
we get a lot more pins now.
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah. That you will see a lot more pins. Equally, it's a lot easier to get rid of them as well as a result.
Yes,
But
and
yeah,
that's the weird thing. Like pins are way less impactful, but you get a lot more of them.
hmm.
Um, for me, I also feel like the new force organization chart massively changes how we build our armies and how we think about the game as such, because it really does change quite a lot about how this game is played, how you build your army, I think. How did you feel about the new force organization charts?
From a player perspective, I really like it.
Yeah,
Because you can try to build more credible platoons, more historically accurate platoons if you want to, and a bit like other game systems do. I hope the future campaign books set out for people what a real platoon would look like, so they can
mm,
really design platoons that look like that if they want. But there is, as one of the playtesters said to me, and I think he's right, the game was originally a platoon level game, and to some extent, it's become a company level game because
yeah,
of this combining of platoons. Um,
yeah.
so the platoons were never very realistic. You know, having a heavy howitzer in your infantry platoon, but and the game's still the game's still there for fun rather than reenactment.
Mm.
But yeah, it makes a huge difference. It's a huge headache for TOs.
I think so too, because at least for tournaments, this force organization chart really lends itself well to spamming armies. So like you spam
Yeah,
out howitzers or you spam out tanks or whatever. And that I think a lot of TOs is going to have to put limits down and say, well, we want this or that or not that or whatever.
Absolutely. It's going to be a bit Wild West to start
Yeah.
with. And people just have to accept that they may run into a lot of scissor, paper, stone scenarios where they might run into a list where they're like, you know what, I just don't have the anti-tank, or you know what, I don't have the infantry I need to take the objectives. So people are going to have to think very carefully about what they want to take. The meta, as they call it, will change a lot, which is fantastic because it's been fairly similar for the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
That's now gone.
Yeah.
Definitely
completely out the window.
Yeah,
restart
absolutely.
From square one. Yeah.
Completely rip up your lists and start again, gentlemen. Yeah, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I've already ordered new minis, like, and I've only had the book for at this point a month. So I'm like already going out and buying new minis because I know that I'm not going to play the same armies. I'm not going to play the same way anymore. Everything is going to change. Yeah.
Same here. Warlord helpfully had a sale on heavy weapons units. So it would be fair to point out a lot of my armies have now got multiple mortars, MMGs, and they're now currently having a sale on artillery, I think. So I have to go back and look at that. So, but the game, if there is any commercial design to it, the one thing that's clever, and you can't blame a company for this. The way they survive is they've got to sell models, and the game opens up so many new options. Right? Exactly, and you know that's great. Actually, as someone who likes playing with different toys, it's great for me. I appreciate it will be difficult for some people at first while they work out what to do, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we will get there. And I think you're right that this meta shakeup, at least for World Open War, which is coming fairly soon, we're going to see so much chaos. I'm not sure that people will. I'm pretty sure that they'll bring vastly different armies, and not know how they will do because we haven't got the time to practice beforehand. Everything is just up in the air.
That's true. We've just 2 points here. I've done everything I can to get early release on stuff to all the players, and I've really tried hard to do that. And we get a final update on the lists that are available for them. And the reason for that is the rule book, a bit like the version 2 book, has a bit of a kind of bare bones army list, which is understandable. It's the first one, but I don't feel playing at high level it was going to be what we wanted. So I've had to go through the entire
players want more choices, and
so I've been trying to include everything I can and making sure I'm not breaking the game by doing that. That's one thing. The second thing, the one advantage we have over a normal tournament is because we're a team event with 3 players, you can in your team take 3 different armies. And then you can try and get the right matchup on the table that you want. Yeah. So I'm hoping scissors, paper, stone, if people are sensible about the table they pick for their army, should in theory be less of a problem. But let's be honest, we don't really know the meta. No. And we don't know how people are going to build their lists. So actually, World Open War, I think, might be one of the most fascinating tournaments we've seen in years because you've got 48 really good players all building lists with V3 all trying to work out what to do. And I imagine there is going to be a lot of demand from people to see the lists from this tournament to see what people are doing with them.
Oh, yeah.
Because so early in, it's definitely going to be something that people want to see.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So those were some of the changes from version 2. I think we should mention a couple of other major changes. So the new mission system and the close combat phase, which also both of them have changed quite significantly, right?
Yeah.
So the mission system, I really like that change because it sort of, and I would even encourage Warlord Games to expand it further. You could really work with that because you're now rolling for a mission, you're rolling for deployment zones, and you're rolling for deployment type. I really like the combination because you can get all kinds of different, there's a lot of different scenarios that can play out here instead of just the tired old 6 or 7 or how many we played before, right?
Yeah, there were only 6 or 7 being played from the book. So it's actually a really good thing. Yeah. There is a risk, but what I would say to people, when you roll up your mission, and if you're playing with a friend at home or at your club, if you roll up a mission and you think, this doesn't work,
Yep.
Don't feel you have to stick to it. Just roll up a
Yep.
new one, because
Yep.
there will be certain scenarios where it mechanically won't work with that deployment zone for this mission. Just roll again.
Yep.
Just keep doing that. And of course, for tournaments, it's a non-starter. So don't worry, tournaments will have missions drawn up for them.
Yes.
And I'm pretty certain people like the Bold Action Alliance will start producing mission tournament packs and stuff. So there'll be plenty of stuff out there for people to see.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you mentioned is close combat.
Oh, yeah.
That is the biggest, for me, that was the biggest change, other than obviously the point and shoot. And it's basically a lot more realistic as far as my knowledge of World War II goes.
Yeah.
I think bayonet injuries from bayonet attacks or like melee weapons was about 1% of all. Yeah, it's 1%, if that, of all injuries in World War II. Whereas in bolt action, I don't know, maybe it's 10%.
A lot more anyway.
Well, depends how you play it. Yeah. But you know, it's definitely up there. The new system, to be clear, for people who haven't seen it, will be if you charge an enemy unit and it's in the open, you have simultaneous combat. The attacker will not go first. And if you charge a unit that's in a defensive position, they get first swing. So you have got to be very confident to try and dig an enemy unit out of terrain.
Yeah.
It's doable, but it's a lot harder. And I do think it may mean...
You need the right tools for that job. You definitely need the right tools.
So it could mean some of our close combat armies disappear. Although we say that, we have to see what happens.
We have to see what happens, because we
someone
don't know.
Someone might figure something out.
Yeah. But at least the meta will, like, for rules-wise, the rules are trying to shift the meta quite far away from close combat. And I was initially very worried about where this would take the game, because my instinct was to think that this would mean a much more static game with a lot less maneuver. How do you feel about that?
I would say there is without giving a lot of weight, there is a big debate amongst players over that. There are people who feel that has not happened at all, and the game is absolutely fine. And there are others who would say, no, this game's got a lot more static. Yeah. So different people have different views based on their own personal experiences.
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot of terrain, there is a risk that it becomes a little bit World War I. Yeah. Because if you try and move a unit into the open, it's going to get hit. It's going to get hit. As simple as that. Yeah. So you've got to be clever how you do that. But where there's a lot of terrain that you can use, you can still move quickly. And then the other thing people didn't take into account is there have been some that overall, I would say 90% of units are more or less the same point cost.
Yeah, more or less. Like 1 or 2 points up or down, but they're more or less the same. Yeah. Yeah,
there have been changes, though, on some of the armoured transports. Yeah. So I think if you work through the rule book when you see it, some people who've always wanted to play kind of a Schwerpunkt kind of German Panzer Grenadier list might go, oh, I can do that now, or I can at least try it and see if it works. Yeah. So actually, armoured transports potentially might be more of a thing, because if you need to move your guys through the open, they're going to need some kind of protection.
They are. And I think because soft skins vehicles have gotten a major nerf with this edition, because all of a sudden they die on any result that was a damage. So it's not 50% of damage, it's any result that rolls a 6. So I think a lot more people will start looking at armored transport as an alternative to the trucks that we used to run on all of us, right?
But there's another reason for that as well. If you've got armored transport that half track, it's going to be a lot easier to get them into cover. Wheeled vehicles, in many cases, can't really find cover to get into. Yeah. So they are, they're a lot more vulnerable, but they're going to be cheaper as well. So at least you do get that as well.
Yeah. So now we've already sort of touched on points of critique. So let's do the big one. For you, are there any like obvious missed opportunities that Warlord Games had with this edition that you think they sort of fumbled the ball a bit on?
There's a lot that they've done that's gone right, is the first thing to say. Yeah. And I've probably got about 25 games on my belt, so it's not as many as I'd like. And I need to play a lot more before I have a really good feel for it. What I suppose, what would I really like to see from them? I'm pretty happy with what we've got. There's always little minor adjustments you'd like. They've done a good job of nerfing. So nerfing. They've nerfed early war Dakar tanks, and they're a lot more realistic in the way they work. So that's good. I really like that. Combat clearly been nerfed. That will change some people's views on it, but it's fairly realistic, I think. For me, the things I would have done, I would have still kept the -1 for long range. For me, it just gives you a reason to want to get in close to shoot.
Yeah.
And it gives you a bit of protection if you are out of range. So I would have done something there so long range still has an impact. Because I don't know about you, Bo, but whenever I've gone to rifle ranges, I seem to be a lot better when the target's closer than when it's further away. So I'm that's one I would definitely have tinkered with a bit. The other thing that needed nerfing was the MLRS systems, so the multi-launch rocket systems.
They didn't really do that.
Well, we there was a lot of testing going on. I won't say too much, but the end outcome was what it was. There are other people making suggestions for what we can do. What we are doing at World Open War, because
which I really like, by the way. TOs, pay attention to this one, because right now multi-rocket launchers, like, of all the things that were OP before, Gurkhas, Dakar tanks, and what have you, all of those have had their nerfs right now. Multi-launchers, not so much. One pin is nothing. But
so as brilliant, and it's not so much that they are necessarily really, really super powerful, but given you can now put, say, 4 of them or 5 of them into your list, they have a multiplier effect.
Yeah.
So it makes it even more dangerous, and it's just not a pleasant game to play. It's boring. Exactly. It's like playing roulette. Yeah. So what we're doing is you all get 1 pin plus D3 pins. Yeah. So in other words, you're going to get 2 to 4 pins every time you fire it. Yeah. 2 to 4 pins. So in many cases, even with an officer, and I'm sure what's going to happen.
It'll be dicey. They may fail. Yeah.
It means it's a lot more likely they fail, which is important. The other thing we've done is clarified. It's unclear as written. We now know spotters are allowed to spot for any artillery piece or heavy weapons piece. It's not very clear if that means anything at all.
Yeah.
So, for example, does that mean my medium mortar spotter can spot for an inexperienced or a regular Nebelwerfer? And we've just clarified with an FAQ, no. The only weapon systems that you can spot for are ones that have spotters available to them.
Yes.
And I've gone a bit further. They have to be in the same platoon. So you can't have a medium mortar heavy weapons platoon spotting for an artillery unit.
That makes absolute sense, because it's one of the obvious exploits that you can do with the system as is now, and it, for me, one of the things that I really wanted, if we're talking missed opportunities, there's a lot of things that I wanted to be a little clearer, just for competitive play, because normally basement games, nobody cares about this stuff. People will agree.
Yeah. Rules as intended.
It's the tournament scene where you sometimes have these discussions. Well, rules as written, yes, it's like that. But rules as intended, everyone knows that it's intended to play like that, but it's not clear. And I think there are a few missed opportunities for me. One of them is that one with the spotters. What can they actually spot for? Can they spot for something that's in the artillery piece selection, but can't take a spotter? I mean, it makes no sense that they could, but it's not clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something. Look, I know it's a new book, and people are going to potentially laugh. Go, ha, it's a new book. You FAQ in already. Yep. This is not unusual, because what happens as the book gets leaked, it's been leaked quite a lot, it seems. People start picking up on stuff that others haven't seen, or stuff that was picked up on and was decided, no, that's fine. It will become obvious it's not fine, and you need to do something about it.
Yeah,
that's inevitable. What I will say, though, is the previous FAQ for V2, it was worked through. So it's not that this has been ignored. It's been worked through, and everything that was in there's been an attempt to address it.
Yeah.
So
And
lots of the things.
you can clearly see those attempts to address it in such rules as, for instance, the Recce rule for version 3. It's very clear that they've been reading the fact, they've been thinking about how Recce should work, and they made a very clear list of what to do in which order, which that really works for me. So for you, which changes do you think are the best version 2 to version 3 here?
For me, I kind of like some of the points changes to bring some new units back. Well, not new units, to bring some units back to the game that we should be seeing.
Yeah,
that's going to work well. I like the fact that the MMGs are now a lot more effective.
Yeah,
that was badly needed.
Very badly.
There's been a small points drop to LMGs, and I think 15 points is the absolute perfect place. I think they are auto take if they're 10 points.
Yeah,
I think at 15 points,
10 points is too cheap, but 15 is still 1 or 2 points too much for me.
Yeah, but now given that they're going to be hitting all the time, they're a lot more important. So that range of 36 versus 24 on rifles is a lot more relevant to the game. Because you're not going to be small target, hard cover, long range. Oh, I'm hitting you on a 6 and 6. You'll be, oh, I'm hitting you on a 4.
Yeah.
So oh, you're 35 inches away.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm hitting you on a 4. So that makes a big difference. So they're a lot more valuable now. I think they are.
And as you mentioned before, even MMGs, medium machine gun teams, I think we'll be seeing some of those going forward, because 6 shots is not to be sneezed at when you're hitting on 4s. That's 3 hits on average, right? So
that's right.
Yeah. So that's pretty good.
And they're a lot safer. They're a lot safer to use now. Snipers can't like auto delete them. So a sniper's more likely to injure a man on the team, but he's not just going to kill the team.
Yeah.
Which I think we're all pleased about. I haven't met anyone who's angry at that.
No.
But remember, every single person out there, including me and you, is going to have in their mind what the perfect rule book would be. This is never going to be the perfect rule book for anyone. So there is always going to be a couple of things you don't like, but there were probably a couple of things you didn't like about V2 as well. So don't just throw your hands in the air and go, oh, I'm not playing this anymore.
Yeah.
You really need to play it and see how it works.
Try it.
And there are tournaments starting up quite quickly, actually. So there's some kind of test tournaments that I've seen that have been announced. I think we are World Open Wars the first really big one. Yeah. And as I say, that will
also because it brings together so many different national teams. So a lot of players will test that out and try and that'll inform the meta of Bolt Action version 3 really quickly, I think.
It really will. So I'm going to be doing everything I can to make sure we've got lots of data, film some of the games, see what's going on, because I just think it'll be fascinating to see what people are doing, what armies are being used, because it's just so unclear. The other issue is, of course, Warlord. Okay, we've got the 5 main armies. The special rules, I would say I've seen a lot of complaints about special rules, about they're boring, they're not being changed. This is a joke. Can I just remind everyone, this is the new main rule book. These are not the armies of lists.
Yep. So they may still change quite dramatically.
Exactly. It is unthinkable. For example, in the main rule book, there's some factions that do not have engineers.
Yep.
It is unthinkable that those armies will not get them in their main army books. And also, I would personally, I think it would be very surprising on future books, like armies of, I don't know, whichever one it is, but that they won't look at special rules as well. But remember, those army books will be written after they've got a few months of data on what's going on in the games. That will actually help them make the books better.
Exactly.
So in a way, there's a good argument that you don't want all 5-6 books out now. What you want is people seeing what's actually happening out there and recognizing any issues.
Yeah. I agree. For me, one of the best changes is something that I'm not sure we should actually talk about, but once you get your rule books, people, look in the vehicle section and how vehicles are going to move in version 3. That is going to be really interesting. So something to look forward to, I think.
Yeah, I think that's out there. I think some of our American colleagues may have
leaked
the pivot system. Oops. the pivot system may have changed. Let's put it that way.
Let's put it that way. No more than that.
No more
I
than
think
that.
that's perfectly fine. So that for me is one of the good changes. I think that I'm spotting already, and
Absolutely.
yeah. I also think that the game is potentially more balanced. I of course I'm very sad that I'm going to have to throw out all my Gurkhas, but I think the game is more balanced. Yeah,
Well,
well, I'm not throwing
you
them
say
out.
that.
Never. Yeah,
If I am going to if I am going to be able to pull off a charge,
it will be
if the
with Gurkhas.
if the Gurkha rule is not changed,
Yeah,
that is a unit that can charge an enemy unit.
yeah,
But you might
and
need bigger units
expect
of
to win.
Gurkhas. Yeah, he's still got a shot at it because it's
Yeah.
okay. I'm charging an 8-man team,
Yeah.
and I've got 8 men. You get 4 swings at me.
Yeah.
Then I start swinging. So if anyone's going to put it off, it's going to be the Gurkhas.
It is. It is.
unless at some point they get nerfed further.
Yes. So it really comes down to how much is close combat going to be valuable compared to shooting, which is now where the good stuff is at.
Well, what I will say on close combat in the play testing we did, where it was still useful, was clearing up the remnant of a team that had been smashed up already, or maybe dealing with a small unit, small target. Still useful for that, for cleaning units out.
Yeah.
When you really absolutely want to guarantee you kill it, you clear it out. Those guys. But the big silly kind of banzai charges that didn't work really in World War II.
No.
I'm not going to work now in version 3, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
So here at the end, final thing that we should talk about is, how do you think the game will play? What are our predictions for how this is going to go?
In what sense? How is it going to go? Do you mean, Bo?
Well, for me, having read through the rulebook, I am thinking combined arms. I'm thinking a lot about combined arms, a lot about different tools for different jobs. And like before, I would get a tank and just shoot at people, try to pin them and give them casualties, and then run at them and kill them. That doesn't work anymore. So for me, I think a lot of people are going to look at getting different tools for different jobs as a starter here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Players have got a couple of options, really. Do you focus in and do one thing really well?
Yeah.
Or do you try and have a balanced list? Because it's a lot easier to balance your list, but it's also a lot easier to specialize. And I think from a tone, it's going to be easier to play reenactment games and like fun games at your clubhouse, and because you can really design your list to do that now. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
In terms, and I can't wait for the campaign books they're writing in the future. I'm sure they put plenty out there. And I think the old campaign books are still valid. You just switch out the platoons for the ones we've got now, but with the relevant units. In terms of tournaments, what you might see is people leaning really hard into a couple of specializations and they're just running with it to see whether actually they put so many. For example, if a tournament's going to let you put double tank platoons down, depending on the mission, there's certain armies that will not be able to cope with it. And that's where we get back to the TOs have got a lot of work to do, depending on what they want. What do they want their tournaments to be? If you want them balanced and anyone's got a shot, you're going to have to do a lot in terms of restrictions. If it's completely open, somebody might take 4 platoons of tanks and just run them out. Or someone might take a horde army with loads of medium mortars. There's lots of options they can try.
So maybe we'll start out trying to be balanced, or like having different tools, because that was where I started anyways. And then as soon as we figure out, well, this is good, and people will then try to lean into that. Do we think that's the way it's going to go?
I think so. And the other reason would be more balanced. A lot of people just won't have the models they need to put an 8 light howitzer gun line out with, to start with. Would probably be more balanced for that reason. The one weapon that looks like it could prove to be very popular, I think, is the light autocannons. Yeah, they are worth watching. We're going to see. They are
definitely worth watching. That, and for me also mortars in general, I think are worth watching as well.
Yeah, indirect HE has no saving throw.
Yeah,
and that that means suddenly they might be more important. Yeah, great.
Yep. Right. Russell, thank you so much for coming on and talking here.
good talking.
I'm guessing we'll do more of this as we go along and figure out what we want to say. But for now, that was it from us. If you've got any questions about V3, not sure we'll answer them, but in the comments, please. And I will see you soon in Southend.
Indeed, October 26th, 27th, but looking forward to it.
Me too. Cheers.
Bye.
And we're off.